It's time for the news.
Algeria is celebrating today, like the rest of the Muslim world, the Islamic festival of Ashura, coinciding with the 10th of Muharram in the Hijr calendar. The proceedings of the Africa-Russia summit are continuing for the second consecutive day in the Russian city of St. Petersburg with the participation of Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman. And in Niger, the spokesperson of the UN Secretary General has announced that the humanitarian operations of the UN are suspended due to the political situation in the country. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First in our news, Algeria is celebrating today, like the rest of the Muslim world, the Islamic festival of Ashura, coinciding with the 10th of Muharram in the Hijr calendar. Ashura is a public holiday, traditionally marked by celebrations, almsgiving or zakat, and fasting. In a telephone conversation with the rector of the Great Mosque of Paris, Shamsuddin Hafiz, the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has praised the efforts made by this prestigious religious institution, welcoming the successful sending of 900 children from the national community to summer camps in Algeria, enabling our children living in France to discover Algeria's rich history and national heritage, according to a press release issued by the Presidency of the Republic. The President of the Republic also expressed his absolute support for the rector of the Grand Mosque of Paris and urged him to multiply these initiatives towards young Algerians with a view to creating a harmonious climate between Algeria and France, according to the same source. On Thursday evening, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman, representing the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, at the Russia-Africa Summit and its Economic and Humanitarian Forum in St. Petersburg, attended a reception given in honor of the heads of the participating delegations. Before the reception began, the Russian President greeted the Prime Minister, who was among the heads of delegations of the participating African countries, including heads of state and governments. Participants in the summit and the Economic and Humanitarian Forum will spend 2 days examining the prospects for cooperation at the multifaceted strategic partnership between the African states and Russia. The summit will culminate in the adoption of a number of cooperation documents and the action plan for the Russia-Africa Partnership Forum for 2023 to 2026. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman held talks Thursday with the Vice President of the Transitional Sovereign Council of the Republic of Sudan, Malik Agar, on the sidelines of his participation as representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, at the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg in the Russian Federation. The meeting provided an opportunity to discuss the fraternal relations between the two countries and the two brotherly peoples and to exchange views on the efforts to overcome the crisis in Sudan. The Algerian news agency APS has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Russian news agency TASS in St. Petersburg, Russia, on the exchange of media content, experience, and expertise. The memorandum of understanding was signed by APS Director General Samir Gaid and TASS Director General Andrei Kondrashov on the sidelines of the Russia-Africa Summit and its Economic and Humanitarian Forum. Speaking on the sidelines of the signing ceremony, the Director General of APS said that the Memorandum of Understanding would raise relations between the two agencies to a higher level, particularly in terms of exchanging content and expertise. Russian President Vladimir Putin promised on Thursday, on the first day of a Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg, to deliver free cereals to 6 African countries amid concerns after the end of the agreement on Ukrainian grain exports. Our country can replace Ukrainian cereals commercially but also free of charge, he said, claiming that Russia was a solid and responsible producer. Moscow has refused to extend the grain deal that allowed Ukraine to export its agricultural products via the Black Sea, an accord which contributed to stabilizing food prices and avert the risk of shortages. In his speech, Vladimir Putin justified his decision by saying that Western countries were obstructing deliveries of fertilizers and Russian cereals. Coming back to Algeria, on the instructions of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, the Minister of Interior, Local Assemblies and Country Planning, Brahim Murad, has presented condolences to the families of the victims of the recent forest fires in the mountain village of Berisha in the municipality of Maala, west of Wira. Accompanied by the Minister of National Solidarity, Family and the Status of Women, Kautar Kriku, the Interior Minister highlighted the combined efforts of all those involved, which enabled families to be quickly evacuated and several lives to be saved. He also noted that great mobilization of the civil protection and the National People's Army, as well as the heroic contribution of citizens and the civil society, which made it possible to bring the fires under control quickly. At the scene, Brahim Murad and Mrs. Kriko presented a symbolic aid to the families of the fire victims as a gesture of support and compensation for the human and material damage caused to them by the fires. The French news channel France 24 of the public group Media or France Media World continues to spit its venom on Algeria. A press release of the Algerian news agency APS indicated that at a time when the entire Mediterranean basin is hit by unprecedented fires that cause victims in Greece, Italy, Corsica, Spain and Algeria, the vulgar and shameful channel France 24 targeted Algeria as usual without any respect for the memory of the victims, as if the fires hit only Algeria, and yet it is the entire Mediterranean basin that is burning due to record temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius. In Corsica, Greece, Sicily, France, Spain and Algeria, the situation is similar. Hectares of burning forests ravaged by flames causing dozens of deaths, but France 24, by targeting Algeria, did not respect the basic rules of ethics by breaking all the codes and rules of information, the press release added. APS stressed that France 24, whose managers received their instructions on Algeria from one of the close people to the Elysee, known for his proven connections with the terrorist organization MAC, will have to show a minimum of objectivity in these times of mourning. The Algerian state, which has learned the lessons of the 2021 fires, has used all the means to put out the fires, in addition to the speed handling of the victims and the launch of 8 operations in record time, which was not mentioned by France 24. And now in Niger, the spokesperson for the UN Secretary General Stéphane Dujarric has announced that the humanitarian operations of the United Nations are suspended due to the current political situation in the country, where President Mohamed Bazoum has been detained in the presidential palace since Wednesday by members of the Presidential Guard. Said Bouazi has more in this detail.
According to the UN Office of Humanitarian Affairs (OCHA), the number of people in need of assistance in Niger increased from 1.9 million in 2017 to 4.3 million in 2023 in a country plagued by terrorist violence. Despite a relatively successful agricultural season in 2022 and the enormous efforts of the government and its partners to respond to the food crisis, 2.5 million people are victims of severe food insecurity, said the UN agency. This number should reach 3 million during the lean season, June to August, before the next harvest. Let's recall that the president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, has been detained since Wednesday by members of the Presidential Guard, who have initiated the movement in an anti-republican mood, announced the presidency of the Republic of Niger. Former Minister of State, Minister of the Interior, Public Security, of Decentralization and Customary and Religious Affairs from the 12th of April 2016 to June 29, 2020, Mohamed Bazoum won the 2020 presidential election in the second round against former President Mahamadou Ousmane. On the diplomatic front, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the coup d'etat in Niger is yet another example of a worrying trend in the Sahel, which has seen unconstitutional changes of government in countries already affected by violent extremism. For his part, French President Emmanuel Macron has condemned from Papua New Guinea in the strongest possible terms the military coup underway in Niger, which is dangerous for the region, and called for the release of President Mohamed Bazoum. As for the Russian diplomacy, it has called for the rapid release of Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum, who has been held since Wednesday in Niamey by members of his guard. We expect President Bazoum to be released quickly, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said in a statement, calling on both sides to refrain from the use of force and to resolve all contentious issues through peaceful and constructive dialogue.
And in Sudan, Khartoum came end of rocket fire on Thursday while an air base north of the capital was attacked by paramilitaries, inflicting losses on the army, according to them, almost 3.5 months after the start of the war in the country. Residents told reporters of heavy artillery fire and fighter planes flying over the capital. There were also violent clashes with all types of weapons in the northern suburbs of Khartoum, according to witnesses. Drones belonging to the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary, led by General Mohammed Hamdan Daglo and opposed to the army of General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, attacked the strategic Wadi Saidna air base north of the capital. To the Middle East now, where the General Secretariat of the Arab League has submitted a copy of its pleading before the International Court of Justice as it sits in The Hague in the context of the issuance of a legal advisory opinion on the nature of the Zionist occupation of the Palestinian territories, its effects, and its legal consequences. In the press release published on Thursday, the spokesman for the Secretary General of the Arab League, Jamal Rushdie, pointed out that the ICJ is examining this question in implementation of a resolution issued by the United Nations General Assembly. Saeed Bougazi has more details again.
The spokesman for the Secretary General of the Arab League underlined that this plea contains evidence and details of what the Palestinian people are enduring on their land, including occupation, colonization, apartheid, and violations. Jamal Rushdie added that the General Secretariat had taken upon itself the task of preparation of the written pleading by legal experts at the highest level and under the direct supervision of the Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait, given the great importance of this legal and diplomatic battle. Last December, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 247/77, which requested an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice on the Zionist violations of the human rights of the Palestinian people in the occupied territories, including Al-Quds. In another development, experts have said in a statement that the international community must take measures to prevent the Zionist entity from annexing more occupied Palestinian territories. In 2020, 46 UN experts called on the international community to take a firm stance against the Zionist entity's plans to annex parts of the occupied West Bank. Our call went unheeded then, and we cannot remain silent now, they said. The experts, including the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories occupied since 1967, Francesca Albanese, the Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, Olivier de Schutter, and the Special Rapporteur on Minority Issues, Fernand de Varenne, also noted that human rights defenders who bring these violations to the public's attention continue to be slandered, prosecuted, or labeled as terrorists.
And still with the Middle East file, more than 1,700 Zionist settlers stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Al-Quds on Thursday, at a time when the occupation police imposed restrictions on the entry of Muslim worshippers, according to media reports. An official of the Islamic Waqf department in Al-Quds, quoted by the media, said that 1,747 settlers stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Thursday morning under the protection of the occupation police. The source said that the police had also imposed restrictions on the entry of Muslim worshippers during the period of the assault. The intruders included extremist Zionist leaders. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for weekly programs, starting with my colleague Saeed Bougazi with a special program devoted to the celebration of Ashura. And this will be followed by another program by my colleague Jamal Salmani on the Grand Mosque. And with this, we come to the end of it. We'll meet you again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin in English. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye for now.
Ashura is an Islamic holiday observed on the 10th of Muharram, the first month of the Islamic calendar year. The word Ashura means 10, denoting the date of the holiday. Traditionally, Ashura commemorates two events: the day Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, left the ark, and the day Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, and his people was saved from Pharaoh and his army by Almighty Allah. Muslims regard fasting during Ashura as recommended, though not obligatory, having been superseded by the Ramadan fast. According to hadith record in Sahih al-Bukhari, Ashura was already known as a commemorative day during which some Mecca residents used to observe customary fasting. Prophet Muhammad, God's peace and blessings be upon him, fasted on the day of Ashura, the 10th of the Muslim month of Muharram in Mecca. When fasting during the month of Ramadan became obligatory, the fast of Ashura was made non-compulsory. During the time of Prophet Muhammad, God's peace and blessings be upon him, local Jews observed the day of fasting at this time of the year, their Day of Atonement. According to Jewish tradition, this marked the day that Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, and his followers were saved from the Egyptians when God parted the waters to create a path across the Red Sea to make escape possible. According to tradition, Prophet Muhammad, God's peace and blessings be upon him, learned of this tradition upon reaching Medina, and he found the tradition to be one worth following. He joined the fast for 2 days himself and encouraged followers to do so as well. Thus, the tradition began that remains to this day. Overall, Ashura is a rather quiet celebration, and for many it is not marked by outward display or public events at all. For Muslims, Ashura is a day marked by reflection, respect, and gratitude.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Semeni. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered, a curious mixture of cultures and influences. Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I together. Today is a special program where we are going to visit the Grand Mosque of Algiers. At present, the world's third largest mosque is erected in the Bay of Algiers. The mosque brings together various cultural and religious facilities. All main buildings in the mosque complex share a plinth that is in places up to 5 meters high. On this raised plateau, they are aligned from west to east in the direction of Mecca. Within the complex, they form two groups. In the west, the place for contemplation, with entrance arcades, cultural center, and minaret, and in the east, the place for congregation for up to 35,000 faithful. A spacious park leads from the mosque complex to the buildings in the south, namely the cultural center, the library, and the Imam School. The 265-meter height of the minaret and the length of the entire complex create a strong presence in the urban context over a wide area. Located only 6 kilometers east of the historical town center and not far from the airport, the mosque, hosting up to 120,000 visitors a day, will encourage the future development of the adjacent district of the city. The mosque complex is linked to the buildings in the south, namely the cultural center, the library, and the Imam School, by a spacious park. This landscaped outdoor area can house a large number of people and also offers a haven of tranquility. Through their alignment and height, the mosque ancillary buildings reference the adjoining residential buildings to the south. In the way they are configured, they serve as a buffer zone between the city and the mosque park. The prayer hall, or salle de prière, is a massive cube towering up to 45 meters and able to take up to 35,000 people. The interior, with its choice materials, restrained ornamentation, and indirect natural light, creates an impressive spatial experience. All the traditional religious elements, such as the Qibla wall, the mihrab, minbar, and Dikka, are integrated into a whole of modern aesthetics. Daylight from above steeps the whole in continually changing patterns of light and shadow. The interplay of light and shadow is creating a space with a sacred, if not mystical, character. The minaret rises up to some 265 meters and is thus on the same scale as major skyscrapers. It is the highest building in Africa. The lower stories open out invitingly to the plaza and transport visitors by means panoramic elevators into those upper stories open to the public, in which the Museum of Islamic History is housed. Above it, there are two research areas open to academics only. The multi-layered facade is made up of an outer ornamental skin made of prefabricated perforated facade elements that protect the glass skin behind from direct solar radiation. The four access routes at the tower's corners are clad in bright natural stone. The top of the minaret will be transparent. The glass will cover the viewing platforms, one for visitors, the other for VIP guests. They offer a unique view over the city and the sea. The flora columns, the leitmotif for the design throughout the edifice, are flora pillars with protruding capitals in all areas of the ensemble. The flora columns not only blend harmoniously with the local palm vegetation, but combine load-bearing properties with other technical functions. They provide a surface acoustic equipment while also integrating ventilation and drainage. The building complex forms a successful combination of Algerian tradition and the present. The mosque brings together the cultural wealth of Islam in Algeria with German excellence in architecture and engineering. Construction site work began at the building site for the large new mosque building in March 2012. To protect the approximately 150 by 150 meter large prayer hall from earthquakes, its supports are positioned only seismic isolators. To ensure the stability of the extremely slim and 265 meter high minaret, the base of the shaft is sunk approximately 15 meters into the ground. Structural devices of this magnitude as earthquake protection are unique. In the second part of our weekly program, Destination Algeria, we focus on the Jama al-Jdid Mosque. At approximately 350 years old, the Jama al-Jdid Mosque is by no means a new religious site, as the name reflects. The Jama al-Jdid Mosque was constructed in 1660 during the Ottoman period, and even though its designation changed a few times over the centuries, and reconstruction was done to suit its new purposes, the building survived the French onslaught, which saw many historic buildings destroyed. As the ruling forces changed, so did the Jama al-Jdid Mosque, and is today an interesting structure that reflects numerous architectural styles. Some of the styles that can be seen in the architecture include Byzantine, Italian, Turkish, and Andalusian. Through years of remodeling, visitors will enjoy this spectacular attraction as it is educational, interesting, and breathtakingly beautiful. There are two entrances to the Jama al-Jdid Mosque, and visitors can look forward to exploring the ramparts, domes, vaults, columns, and wood finishes that have been designed to perfection. As the mosque was forced to take on the role of various religions, new designs and additions were made to accommodate each community, and so giving the mosque its unique look and atmosphere.